Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing really well. It's Wednesday. I'm still a bit congested. You can probably still hear it in my voice. I can hear it in my ears when I talk. So I apologize if it is harder to hear me or understand me than usual. But I am coming today with a pretty big book haul, so I'm going to cut right to the chase. But I think a lot of these books will either have been on your periphery, maybe not on your radar 100%, or maybe you missed them when they first came out. I've gotten some paperbacks and stuff like that. So get out your paper, get out your pen, get out your Goodreads, because I have a feeling a lot of these are going to wind up on your TBR as they move to my TBR shelves. And the first book I'm going to tell you about is Small Country by Gael Faye, and this was my Book of the Month Club book for this month, and this is the story of a family that lives in Burundi, which I believe borders Rwanda, and it's 1992, and they live in a very comfortable expatriate community. And it's about a young boy. His name is Gabriel, and he's half French, half Rwandan. And I believe what happens is civil war breaks out both in Rwanda, which abuts Burundi, and Burundi itself, and how that civil war affects this family. The reviews on it were just really, I think it's going to break my heart. But you guys know I like myself a sad book. So that's Small Country by Gael Faye. And I haven't read a lot of books out of this part of the world, so that is super exciting. The next book I'm going to talk to you about is actually a book way back on a backlist that they just reissued, and it is Where the Line Bleeds by Jesmyn Ward. This is actually her first novel that got a reissue right before she won her second National Book Award. And this is the story of twins. And I don't know if it tells me the year. I don't think so. But it's set again in Mississippi, which is where Jesmyn sort of is her pocket of just brilliance. It's about two twins that are raised by their grandparents, and eventually one day their parents return. And the mom, I believe, is just sort of always looking for work, and the dad is a dangerous drug addict, I believe. And it's about that return and the decisions that the twins have to make. And yeah, so this is the only Jesmyn Ward book I haven't read. So there you go. So that's Where the Line Bleeds by Jesmyn Ward. I'm super excited. I think the new reissued cover is gorgeous, and I will be getting to that very, very soon. The next book I'm going to tell you about actually comes out, I want to say, on June 5th. So we have about a couple weeks left. And that is Florida by Lauren Groff. This is a collection of short stories. Now, Lauren Groff wrote Fates and Furies. She wrote The Monsters of Templeton. She wrote Arcadia. And she has a short story collection, which is the only book by her I haven't read. But I love myself some Lauren Groff. I think she is a phenomenal writer. I actually think Monsters of Templeton is brilliant. I really enjoyed Arcadia. I love her. She's a great writer. And these short stories are sort of all held together by Florida, the state. And I think the way it says here is that Florida, its landscape, climate, history, and state of mind becomes the gravitational center, an energy, a mood, and as much as a place of residence that holds these short stories together. So I do happen to know that Lauren Groff is going to be at Green Apple Books on the Park in June. I'm going to try to organize my schedule so that I can go. I want to say it's on a Monday. If you are in the neighborhood and you're going to go, let me know. And if you can see her, I can only imagine how phenomenal she's going to be in person. So this is her short story collection, Florida, and it comes out on June 5th. If you haven't read anything else by her, I highly recommend going into her backlist because it is well worth it. The next book I'm going to read. I'm going to just read to you. No, that is not me at all. The next book, but I am going to read because I'm going to read the jacket of this one. The next book that I'm going to tell you about is The Optimistic Decade by Heather Abel. Now, this book first popped up on my radar because Lenny Zumas and Aaron White, now Lenny Zumas read Bone Clocks, both were raving about this book. And she was also an author at the Booktopia event at Northshire Books in Vermont this year, which I was not able to go to. However, the plot is a little bit more complicated than me summarizing it, so I'm just going to read it to you. So it says, framed by the oil shale bust and the real estate boom, by protests against Reagan and against the Gulf War, the optimistic decade takes us into the lives of 5 unforgettable characters and is a sweeping novel about idealism, love, class, and a piece of land that changes everyone who lives on it. There is Caleb Silver, the beloved founder of the Back to the Land camp Lamalo, who is determined to teach others to live simply. There are the ranchers, Don and his son Donnie, who gave up their land to Caleb and who now want it back. There is Rebecca Silver, determined to become an activist like her father and undone by the spell of both Lamalo and new love. And there is David, a teenager who has turned Lamalo into his personal religion. So, I think that sounds fantastic. I want to say that Peter Heller, who I love, Celine, remember, Nathan Hill, who wrote The Knicks, both blurb this book. So that is very, very optimistic for me. And that cover, you guys, come on. So that's The Optimistic Decade by Heather Abel. The next book, so I got that book for my birthday. My birthday was last week, and I went and did some book shopping for myself, and I picked up with that one knowing that I was going there. The next book I picked up was actually just sort of its spine was out, and I was like, I like the title. I wonder what that book is about. And that is The Map of Salt and Stars by Jennifer Zeynab Jourkhadar. So I probably butchered your name, Jennifer, and I am so sorry, but I've been following you on Twitter, and I love your style, and I love everything about you, and I think your book, The Map of Salt and Stars, sounds fantastic. This is set in 2011. Our main character is a young girl named Noor, who her family has lost the father, and they move from America back to Syria. Where they are from. So Jennifer is a Syrian American, and they move back to Syria, and they move into a community that is sort of free of the strife, but the strife of Syria eventually finds them, and they have to flee. This is combined with the loss of the father and the sadness that our main character feels about that, and so she tells herself the story of, let me see if I can figure out what it is. She tells the story of a young girl in the 12th century that her dad used to tell her as sort of like a fable fairy tale. And then when they start to flee the Syria, they actually follow very much the similar path that this girl did in the story. So it sort of combines the history of this folklore along with the modern strife of the country, and I think it jumps back and forth where you're actually going to get the tale of the young girl in the story that Noor remembers from her father, plus her family fleeing the strife of Syria. I am going to see her. She is coming to a bookstore in Oakland I have never been to in June, and I am super excited, and I think her book sounds fantastic. And that is The Map of Salt and Stars by Jennifer Zeynab Jourkhadar. So, great cover, too. Okay, the next book was actually recommended to me by Patricia, who watches my channel. Hi, Patricia. And I picked up The Darkest Child by Delores Phillips, and I know that this book has been out for a very long time. All she said to me is that it made her cry. Everyone has said it makes them cry. This is a story of a young girl in 1958. Her name is Tangi Mae Quinn. She's the 6th of 10 children and really the one that her mother dislikes the most. They are very, very down on their luck. A lot of stuff, a lot of bad stuff in the family. But our young protagonist is chosen to be one of the 6 or the first integrated class at a nearby white high school. So normally, the children in her family at 12 are taken out of school and forced into the workforce. But our main character is chosen to integrate into this school, and so it's that story. I think it's going to break my heart. I know a lot of you have read it. This new edition, which is great, by the way, has an introduction by T.R.E. Jones, which just everything about it. Octavia Spencer, who I love, blurbs it on the front corner. So you guys, come on. Everything about this screams. I'm going to absolutely love it as I bawl my eyes out. Okay. So from there, we're going to go to some science fiction. Actually, a couple of science fiction. I bought the paperback copy of the Book of Joan by Lidia Yuknavitch. Now, I tried to listen to this as an audiobook, and it didn't work for me, mainly because there's a lot of world building for the scientific part of it. But I was fascinated with the story. This is one of those, the world has gone to poopers, and the surviving humans have moved into space. And when they get up into space, they basically become, let me see, sexless, hairless, pale-white creatures floating in isolation, but they inscribe stories with tattoos on their skin. And I guess the station that they are on has become sort of a police state run by someone, and there's a rebellion. And the rebellion is led, sort of inspired by this young girl that connects to what little Earth is left on this space station. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's one of those books that I personally have to read because I'm going to have to pay really close attention. I think this cover is fantastic. The hardback cover was fantastic. So that's the Book of Joan by Lidia Yuknavitch. So there you go. Okay. The next book was sent to me by the publisher. So thank you very, very much. Let me make sure I say the right publisher. Saga Press. And I have never read anything by this author, but I have seen her name everywhere lately, and so I'm super excited that I have a copy of Space Opera by Catherynne Valente. In space, everyone can hear you sing. So I'm going to read this one because, again, I'm not good at summarizing complicated sci-fi, but I think you guys are going to think this one sounds fantastic. So a century ago, the Sentience Wars tore the galaxy apart and nearly ended the entire concept of intelligent spacefaring life. In the aftermath, a curious tradition was invented by the remnants of civilization, something to cheer everyone up who was left. Something to celebrate having escaped total annihilation by the skin of one's teeth, if indeed one has skin or teeth. Something to bring the shattered worlds together in the spirit of peace, unity, understanding, and the most powerful of all social bonds, excluding others. Once every cycle, the great galactic civilizations gather for the metagalactic Grand Prix, part gladiatorial contest, part beauty pageant, part concert extravaganza, and part, a very large but very subtle part, continuation of the wars of the past. The powerful species that survive compete in feats, not of orbital combat, but of song, dance, and whatever facsimile of these can be performed by various creatures who may or may not possess, in the traditional sense, feet, mouth, larynx, and faces. I'm not going to read you anymore because I think that is enough to really spawn interest in this book. I think it sounds fantastic. And that is Space Opera by Catherynne M. Valente. Oh, okay, we're going to do some backlist stuff now, actually. So stuff that's been out for a while. The next book is China Mieville China Mieville's the author. He wrote The Census Taker. Now, China Mieville is an author I've read a number of books by, but I was on my book club, and one of the, hi Ryan, and my friend Jana love China Mieville, and they were talking about this book, and so I went out and bought it immediately. This is set in a remote hilltop, in a remote house. There's a young boy who is just been traumatically treated. And he doesn't really feel like, he wants to flee, but he can't get out. And then one day a man shows up, and I think it says, when at last a stranger knocks on his door, the boy senses that his days of isolation might be over. But by what authority does this man keep the meticulous records he carries? What is the purpose behind his questions? Is he friend, enemy, or something more altogether? Sounds so good. And that's The Census Taker by China Mieville. If you guys like sort of dystopian, sort of off-world, there's like a sense of the world in it, but it obviously takes a different perspective. China Mieville is very much your guy. He wrote a fantastic YA novel called Unlondon, I think, which I really enjoyed, and I highly recommend, I'm totally blanking on his other book name. I'm so bad. Hold on. Extra minute. If they have all of his books in here. Perdido Street Station. Yes, very much recommend that one as well. So China Mieville, The Census Taker. Okay. The next book is actually a 40th anniversary edition of a novel, and they redid this, and oh my goodness, guys. Is that not the most beautiful cover you have ever seen? This is The Changeling by Joy Williams. This I didn't even really read what the book was about before I brought it home because I couldn't not have this cover on my shelves. But basically this is about a young woman named Pearl who is young but already an alcoholic. Life has treated her poorly. And she's left and fled an island where her family's from, but the island is calling her back. And when she gets there, it has a psychological effect on her. It brings her the pain that she remembers from her past. And yeah, it's about triumph over the horrors of childhood, and you think you're going to escape, but you can't really escape until you deal with it. And that is The Changeling by Joy Williams. And if you guys can get this copy, I mean, come on. And I think the introduction's by Karen Russell, so I know we're all big Karen Russell fans. The last book I'm going to tell you about is Speak No Evil by Uzodinma Iweala. And I'm going to only say that once because that was the best I'm going to do. So this is by a Nigerian-American author. It's about a young boy, or actually a college-age boy, from Washington, D.C. He's going to go to Harvard, but he has a large secret. He is gay, and his culture and his family will not deal with that, and it's that story, but I think it's from a unique perspective, something that I haven't heard before. Should we just take a moment and point out that Nigeria and Nigerian American authors have been rocking it lately, from Nnedi Okorafor and her, did I just say that right? In my head, I'm saying Okafor, but I know that's not right. She wrote the Binti series. Whoa, so love that, from Stay Away. You guys, come on. So Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. There are so many amazing Nigerian writers out there and Nigerian American writers. I could do a whole video on it. So this is Speak No Evil by Uzodinma Iweala. And yeah, so that's it. That is quite a few books. All of them sound so good to me. I hope they sound so good to you. And I hope they all wind up on your TBR. Have you read any? Let me know. As always, if you are a return subscriber, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you like what you saw. And as always, until next time, happy reading. I'll talk to you later. Bye.